Some women are simply born rich, confident, and naturally magnetic to their desires. Let's be clear, this podcast is not for them. However, if you're a soul-driven, visionary, or entrepreneurial woman who's been on a mission to learn how to create a better future bursting to come out of you, welcome to my world. I'm Jo Warwick, and this is Rich, Sexy, and Free. I've dedicated most of my career to helping women get to their core power and unlock the missing pieces for their own unique success. You may already know me as the author of The Big Book of Love. With 30 years experience in psychology, embodiment, manifesting, and energetics, we will be exploring together the keys to becoming rich, sexy, and free. So if this excites you, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform so you can stay up to date with the podcast. Hi everybody, it's Jo Warwick and we're diving into today's episode of Rich, Sexy and Free. And I'm super excited. I have a very special guest with you today. My first ever showcase episode on Rich, Sexy and Free. And we're going to dive into Crystal's wisdom and what she'll be sharing on this episode. Crystal, it's lovely to have you here. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Crystal Robinson. I am in the USA, in Massachusetts, just south of Boston. And I'm a transformational coach, a national health and wellness coach, certified. And I'm also a Chopra coach, Deepak Chopra. I've been trained in his group. And the reason that I did all that coaching and all that training is because after over 30 years in the engineering field, culminating as a vice president and managing and being in the corporate world, I realized that I was called to something else, dealing with my own health issues throughout my life, culminating in a brain tumor. I was woken up, kind of slapped in the head, literally. I had that brain tumor removed and it changed everything for me. And now all I want to do is help others change. Health and wellness, mind, body, spirit, all the connections and how to heal yourself from within through all life's good, bads, and uglies.
I love that. And I love that what you particularly are bringing forward is that full holistic approach. And as my listeners will know, I'm a big fan of that. So I'm wanting to dive in and find out a bit more from that journey of your own. I know that there was a healing journey for yourself. So if you could share with everybody, what did you do to help yourself move from what could have felt like a massive disempowering rock to the bottom? What did you do to take yourself on that journey into empowerment?
I was actually put on that journey before the brain tumor.
Okay.
And I was put into kind of dark space where we all end up in a hole. And it was medical traumas that was happening over and over for me. And I was put into a place where I was on medication. People would say I had a nervous breakdown, massive anxiety, panic attacks, like all of that, like literally just didn't know how to live. And I had to kind of start reevaluating everything about my life. I was a working mother, very busy. I had all of these different things to do, but nothing I did was around myself. Everything was around everyone else. It was all around what you had to do to be the perfect career woman, be the perfect mother, be the perfect wife. It was all around what others' expectations were of me and what I was supposed to put forth, almost like the Martha Stewart picture. And I didn't realize it until I was in that hole where I was and what I was doing. And I really had to start thinking, okay, what is really important to me? And how do I love myself? And really going into like the things that I was grateful for. That was a huge part for me. Connecting with other healers, just reading and listening to all the different podcasts that I could find, connecting with different healers, then getting their books and reading them and learning all the different ways other than traditional Western medicine. For me, I wanted to learn all about the other ways that we can heal and just get myself out of the rut I was in. And dance was a huge thing for me.
I love a bit of dance. That's definitely been an important part for me on my journey. What kind of dance did you lead to? Your own just expression, or did you go down the route of a particular dance?
I went into ballroom dancing.
Oh wow!
I took a lesson And then traditional form of me, I dove right in, both feet, everything, competitions, shows,
Oh,
all of it. And I absolutely loved it because it occupied my brain and my body at the same time and just gave me immense joy.
mm,
And the community around it, I met so many people. I have friends now for the rest of my life in this community, and all different walks of life, all different cultures. And I still go and see them while they compete. I'm not currently competing right now, but I have and I will again. It's just a fun community, and it is all just for you.
I love that. And as you said, it brings you immense joy, which I think we can both agree is probably a profound element of healing and taking that
Mm.
journey. So when you found ballroom, was that before so that was before the brain tumor?
It was. I actually gave a performance weeks before it was found out and wondering why my balance was all off. My
Mm.
balance had been off. I had been working out at the gym with a trainer, working on that. I had been practicing all this time. My choreography was actually done by Tony Dovolani. I worked with him and he did the choreography for this cha-cha I did. I was all excited, but I still wasn't right. And this was already after dealing with lupus and healing from that and going through that whole process, which brought a lot of my holistic healing practices that I had learned and got off of all kinds of medications. And I did this dance. A couple of weeks later, found out I had a golf ball sized brain tumor in my head.
Wow. Wow. And it's interesting because at that moment you had found joy. You had found somewhere that was an expression. You were clearly flying. You were fit or felt fit and healthy and found community and all of that. So how did you feel when you discovered about the brain tumor?
It was almost like, okay, this is just another thing.
Oh,
It's
okay.
another thing, right? And because I had dealt with so many things with the lupus, that took years to work through, figure out what it was, get
Mm,
off of medications, on medications, off of them again, and really finding what worked for me healing wise. When the brain tumor happened, it was almost like, okay, what am I missing?
mm, yeah.
And as I dove into just, okay, I can do this, I can do everything else. Like I have this analogy, just pull up the bootstraps or put on the stiletto thigh highs, whatever it takes, and
The
just
girl.
go all in. And that's what I did. Went into research, found a great surgeon, and just gonna get this done. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna be fine. And I got through it. Amazingly enough, really no side effects other than my memory is a little sometimes. But I like to jokes about that. I got screws in my head, but they're not loose.
Yeah.
Um, but the way that I found after when I was done with it is I realized I was still living a little bit in victim mentality. I was still living in a lot of like shame and guilt over things in my life that I wasn't really processing.
Mm,
I was just still shoving stuff away. Like you can
yeah.
live in the joy, you can do all the holistic things, you can eat really clean, you can move really well, you can do all these self-care practices, but until you really work with your emotional brain
Yep.
and work through those things, stuff's still going to come out and it comes out in the body.
Absolutely. If it's ignored, it's eventually going to break the system.
Exactly. Your body's just going to tell you. And if you're not listening, and that's what it was for me. That after that, it was just okay. Yeah, if you keep going along this way, something else is going to happen.
Yeah. Just
And
enough.
dig in. So I dug back in into more daily gratitude, more like healing practices, more, okay, what am I holding on to? What am I feeling guilty about? What am I feeling shame about? Where am I blaming others?
That's always a biggie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shame and blame. I always think of it as pass the parcel, the childhood game where you pass the parcel and it's just like, hey, I've got this shame. So why don't I chuck it to you in blame and then you can chuck it around again? And we like pass the parcel, but it eventually it's got to come back to you. Always. It always comes back to you.
Always. And it never comes back the same.
No.
It always comes back differently, right? And sometimes you can really dig into that and kind of end up in that dark hole, right?
Mhm.
But I've heard it called an ego death. I don't know if
I've
you've
heard it
heard
too,
of
and I
that.
don't like that. Actually,
I
you like,
know. I
I don't.
don't like it, but I've heard it call that. And it really isn't because your ego is there to protect you, right?
Absolutely.
But you also have to understand that some of the things that you're being protected from are just your brain. Your brain likes to be comfortable all the time.
Of course
And
it does.
going outside of that comfort is how you grow. It's how
Absolutely.
you thrive. And you
Yeah.
have to come through that. And that's what it is, like coming out of that victim mentality, coming through the ego, which is trying to protect you, but knowing that it's useful, especially, in certain situations, but also knowing, okay, maybe I can blame this person for doing this to me. And for me, it was like dealing with years and years of sexual harassment in the corporate and just like never dealing with it, just pushing it down. And then realizing that, okay, what's my part in this?
Yes.
It
Yeah.
really got down to, well, you put up with it for 20 years.
Mm.
Yes, you didn't really know any better because you grew up in a culture that was very similar. Like I grew up with my dad. My mom left when I was young. So it was like I grew up with a man that was everything was very open. So I didn't really think twice about it. But then when the Me Too movement started, it was just like, oh, wait a minute, this is not normal. This
Yeah.
is not okay. And then really starting to speak out about it and really understand, okay, yeah, I do have a part in this because I just would ignore it.
There's a lot of people who want to sit around and say it was done to me, but there is a part that says nothing is done to you unless you are a child. There's a different scenario there, but when you're an adult, nothing is done to you. You always have a part of, do I accept this in any way? Do I invite this in any way? Do I give my power away to allow somebody in? And when you're willing to look at your part in any connection, then you're going to shift that dynamic, aren't you?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was really shifting that dynamic as opposed to going into that victim mentality and everybody else that it hurt and the people in your family it hurt and the other women that it might have been done to and connecting with them. And then you're all just living in this, ugh,
Yeah.
you're
And
not
that's
getting out of it. And it's really coming out of it. And I think it's true for all traumas. Like the circle, it's like grief. It's the same, like there's a circle to it. And yeah, you need each part in order
absolutely.
to understand the others. And it took me a really long time to, okay, I have compassion for myself, for what I had to deal with, for how it shaped me, changed me, hurt me. But also, okay, you can decide now whether you let it continue to do that.
Absolutely. What do you want moving forward? Because I think that's the most disempowering thing about being in the victim mode is that it keeps you, you're doing it to yourself. I know when I reviewed my own life and was going through all my work, etc., that looking at myself, there was a point you're going, well, this happened and this happened and this happened when I was a kid and these things happened. And yes, I made choices of these relationships, but then I just basically, my worst abuser was me. It was the choices I made. It was the voices that I spoke to myself. It was the way that I judged my own body. It was the lack of value that I had for myself. It was the way that I let people come into my own field in a
Yeah.
way that was like, you're just going to treat me with disrespect. It was the fact that I would sacrifice my well-being, my energy, my heart, my body to please others, to
Mm,
somehow fit in or be acceptable, or that it would create an easy ride. Even when I was aware of those things,
yeah.
I still made those choices. That sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. You mentioned something earlier saying about the grief cycle. I was sharing with Crystal before as we were recording this. I am currently sitting in grief and joy and love and gratitude because my dog has passed. And when you listen to this, there was a previous podcast about that process. But as we were recording this, I'm reflecting. It's only been a couple of days, but the one thing that has been very clear to me, the celebration of the fact that in the past, if there has been grief, I have grieved for other things because my cupboard inside of me, my emotional cupboard, was full of unexpressed grief, heartbreak about my parents, heartbreak about my childhood, heartbreak about my life experiences, disappointment, pain, things I hadn't expressed, and other losses. Because my survival mechanism in the past would be to put it in the back cupboard when we don't deal with that. And what I'm celebrating in this moment, yes, this is a huge loss for me. A love affair of nearly 15 years, a soul partner, a playmate, a best friend, a teacher, a master who has taught me about how to live in life and who saved my life more than one time when I really didn't want to be here, when I had been in those dark, dark moments when you don't know how to get yourself off the floor. But the difference, I feel no past grief. I am so clean from all of that past stuff. I am in just pure gratitude and love and tears because of the crossing, but the ending of a journey. But what I feel is there's no grief or sadness. And there's nothing wrong for grieving for the past. But when you've got to that point, when you've tidied your cupboard, when you've cleaned out, it's like the difference between having to do a deep clean and just doing a clean. I feel at the moment I'm doing a clean, like I'm cleaning for something. But in the past, whether you're grieving a trauma or grieving a loss or grieving, that process is so much more like having to do a deep spring clean of your house. It's heavy and it takes time to move out of that process. So in your journey, what would you say are the three biggest tools that you have used to help you move through that process into your empowerment? Oh, maybe every single day, or maybe it's something you've done over months, but the three biggest things that maybe you tried a million things, but I all know that we have certain tools that we've gone, that really fucking worked for me. And it's for
Yeah.
you particularly that it really fucking worked. And that you would say, I don't live without this. I have my tools at this moment going through this grief process and I'm moving through it because I'm like, I have my tools. I have this. My tools are, yes, I pray. Yes, I use music. Yes, I meditate. I wild swim. I get out in nature. And as I said to you, one of the things I say is, what would Faith do? Because Faith's attitude to life was live in the moment, get out there and live in joy, live. It's a gift. So I'm very much about tending to my forward with my mind. Okay, I allow for the grief, but we keep coming to that. So what have you been your tools that you would say, this is what's fucking worked for me and I hold on to these?
Yeah, the biggest one for me is gratitude.
Okay. Yeah.
Having gratitude and writing it down
Yeah.
and doing it while I'm present. Like just
Yeah.
when I'm driving, noticing things in
Yeah.
nature. Like right now, we've lost all the leaves on the trees and
Yeah.
noticing how beautiful the trees are without their leaves. Also noticing the warm cup of tea.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be this immense thing. It's just, okay, every day there's something I'm super grateful for.
Yeah.
The second one for me is meditation.
Mhm.
Really being able to sit down and just relax my whole body.
Mhm.
And for me, it may be just going to my guides,
Yeah.
talking to my dad who's passed,
Yeah.
talking to my guides. Sometimes it's literally just going to a place that
Mhm.
I perceive. Sometimes if I don't have the energy, I'll listen to a guided meditation,
Yeah.
right? It depends on the time, but that always centers me and brings me back to my own body and my own place. So that's a spiritual mind body connection for me to pull all three together. And dance,
Yeah.
dance. Like even if I just go to, a party and meet up with people that I've danced with and just realizing that how fun this can be and just relaxing and having joy and moving your body and laughing, and it's just so amazing. But I also love to get out in nature. I love to swim. I love to
Yeah.
kayak or paddleboard when the weather is good. But
Yeah.
yeah, being active and appreciating my body and just being super creative. Those things are super awesome for me. Like whether it's drawing or painting or diamond painting or something, like just
Yeah.
using your creativity is super important for me to bring me back into myself.
I love that. Singing is a big one for me. I would say
Mm.
I love to dance, but I would say singing is more important to me. It's been the biggest thing in my life. It's always when I'm most aligned, singing out my feelings. But I think anyway that you can express all the gamut, like the whole gamut. And I think that anything that raises my vibe, I can sing out. Sometimes you need to put on a really sad song and sing with it. And other times
Mm.
you need to put on a really rageful song and rage with it. And I would absolutely, a lot of my clients over the years, I've got them to jump up and down to Rage Against the Machine. And that movement of your body and shaking it. And I did conscious dance for quite a lot of time, and I really enjoy that too. But I think that thing of just letting yourself be and have that full expression.
It's somatic,
It's
right?
so
The
somatic. It's so,
connection with your body and your emotions together at the same time.
yeah, and brings you right to that now that Eckhart Tolle talks about very much. There
Yeah.
really is only the now. There's nothing else. And that it's no guilt at this moment. It's so funny. Accepting that it's okay that I feel joy, even though I may be crying in the next half an hour for 5 minutes. I'm feeling joy. I feel absolute gratitude and appreciation and love. And then the love needs to move through me, which then makes me cry. But that's okay too. It's like,
That's okay too.
and it's no different to that process of healing. And I think as women, particularly, we've been so conditioned, not just us, I know men too, but I'm just thinking about women are very much, we can be like the ocean and given permission to just fully just be in that
Yeah.
moment of going, 1 minute I'm laughing, 1 minute I'm crying, 1 minute I'm just whatever the expression is, that's okay too. It's like when you get to do that, you're like, but I know my center point. My center point comes to me because I allow that. I just let it flow through me and just let the weather be the weather. And then quickly I return to who I am and I move forward.
Yeah. And the other side of that is when you don't do that,
Oh, yeah.
is when those emotions get suppressed and they become other things. Right. So just
Absolutely.
realizing that, yes, I remember going through massive grief when my father passed because it was unexpected. Pulling up the bootstraps and just doing the things and being okay with it and then laughing about, the memories and all of that. And then wondering, are people going to think there's something wrong because I'm not crying 24/7? Right?
Yeah.
Like it's that
Yeah.
conditioning that you're talking
Yeah.
about. And then like, no, I'm going to live in the joy. I want to remember the joy. And it's almost,
Yeah.
there's also this conditioning that happens, and I don't know if it's something that happens in the UK like it does over here, but people celebrate the day of death. I don't like to
Mm-hmm.
do that. I'd rather
Okay.
celebrate their birthday or
Ah,
celebrate something. Why do we remember the day they left us? I'd
yeah.
rather remember so many other things. And it's something that's kind of happens here, like there's memorial services on the day they died, or year
Well,
after year after
every year.
year.
Gosh, we have a wake once you have the funeral. Then
Yeah.
people will do whatever they need to do, but it's not like
Every year for 10 years.
no. No. I like the Day of the Dead, just honoring people. I kind of chat to everybody anyway. I always think, well, they're here anyway. I'm in. I
Right,
just
right. I don't do it every
conversation.
day. Like I'd rather honor them every day for all
Yeah,
the wonderful things than really kind of wrap around that one day.
yeah, yeah. Because then that
Right?
I feel there's something about that kind of that's a almost that victim mentality of like you left me, you abandoned me.
Right.
I've lost you, and I think it's how we shift that language in any
Mm,
subject. In any
yep.
subject, like you were talking earlier about sexual harassment, we talked about trauma. These are
Yeah.
all places where you can sit in a language that says, I'm a victim, or I
Mm,
can change the way I say it. And from the moment that you reframe it
mm.
to give it a different language, even just softly, you get to move in a different direction.
Yeah, it's almost like you almost just love that place, have
Yeah,
compassion for that place,
yeah.
but just pivot a little bit.
Just pivot, just soften the edges and take this,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're just
Have
stuck, aren't you?
compassion for, okay, it's okay.
Okay.
But what about this?
Yeah, yeah. And forgiving ourselves for where we've been. I truly believe there is a journey as I sit in this point in the time that, my Faith was her name.
Mm,
But in that time, how much I've changed and how my mind has changed, how much my body's changed. Of course, I've got older, but just also my attitude. But the funny thing is, I find myself thinking my attitude now is far more like the attitude I had when I was a kid. It's the me, the real me,
the real you,
not the me.
authentic.
Yeah, the authentic me, not the me. And I feel so I'd be curious to find out how you approach it with your clients, because a lot of the way I've always seen things is we're here to just shed the things that aren't ourselves. So I believe that the real us, the authentic us, is already here. We were born with everything. We came with everything. We just got covered in a whole load of clothing. And it makes me always think of Joey in Friends, where he wears like 85 different items of clothing. And our job is to then just, sometimes we have wake ups like your brain tumor and things like that. Sometimes we have devastating things that come along that are quick. Other times it's a slow burner, or we get sick. And we're told to go, you got too much clothing on. The real you can't breathe. It can't come out. It's just buried under all this crap, whether it's yours or
Yes.
somebody else's. And yeah, I wonder how you approach it with your clients. How do you see it for them to bring out themselves in this transformational journey?
Very much similar, like your analogy of the clothes. It's for me, it's like the onion, right? You have the multiple layers of the onion.
Yeah.
And when you first start seeing a client, whether it's for one thing or another, it always comes back to their relationship with themselves.
Mm.
People will come to me because they want to talk about nutrition and lifestyle and get off of medication. And we're talking about relationships, which comes back to them.
Yeah.
Right? Comes back to their mindset around what's happening for their lifestyle, for things that are happening in their life, and where are they rooted?
Yeah.
Where is that mindset rooted? What is that limiting belief that we're not questioning? So for me, it's let's question everything. Is everything that you say or think 100% true? It's not.
No.
I would say it's probably 1 out of 10 that's true,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times people don't even question it
Yeah.
until somebody else does.
Yeah.
Yes, really looking at where that's rooted in you, whether it's really a limiting belief or just something that is really a core belief, right? There's a difference between your core beliefs and what drives you authentically as a person, as opposed to the other beliefs that are surrounding it that you're not questioning, that really are just that extra clothing or the extra layers that you don't need.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
It's very transformative when you start asking the questions about that. Well, why do you think that?
Yes.
Who said?
Yeah.
Is that 100% true?
And does it feel true to you?
Right, right. And where do you feel that in your body? Does
Yeah.
it feel good or does it not feel good?
Yeah.
Right? That makes a difference, because if you say a sentence or a specific belief and then maybe it's not for you.
Asking that question, does it serve you to hold on to that? I think that's such a good question to be able to ask yourself.
Yes.
Because even if you're saying it's not true, or I want to believe it's true, or it feels bad, it's like, but does it serve me?
Right.
Does it serve me or protect me in
Exactly.
some way? I noticed even with this grief, it wants to, there's an old conditioning that wants to come up, that, and it's not mine, it's other people's, that idea again that we're supposed to hold on to the grief. It will give me something. If I hold on to this grief, I will still hold on to her, or it will give me some sort of badge of honor or something like that.
Yes.
It will protect me from love itself or getting hurt again or anything like that. It's being able to be aware of yourself, of going, does it serve me? And sometimes it's okay, isn't it, to say, well, actually, it serves me at this time. If at this time I
Yeah.
feel like that would serve me and it is serving me for now to hold on to this grief, that's okay too, because that's my truth. I don't think you have to say anything is bad or wrong if it's right for you, if it's giving you what
Mm.
you want. Would you agree?
I completely agree with that, because sometimes those things are serving us by protecting us,
Yeah.
right? And maybe there are things we don't want to jump into yet, right?
Yeah.
The process of healing and becoming authentic is lifelong,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we grow and change every day from the day we're born until the day we die. And
Yeah.
new experiences happen every day. So you're constantly just aware. And it's more the awareness of, okay, yeah, this serves me and this doesn't, or
Yeah.
this is what I need right now
Yeah.
and not this. And I know this isn't good for me right now, but I need it,
Yeah. Actually, I
right?
have a
It's even that.
Yeah, I have a friend actually who is going through a grief process, and she is very awake and very aware and has all the tools. And she's able to say at the moment she's taken smoking back up and is eating badly. And she says, I know all of this is wrong and bad for me. She said, and yet it is also right and good for me at this moment because it's what I need. And she
Her
said, I will
choice.
drop it when I'm ready. And I've put myself a date when I'm going to drop it. But for now, it's what I need. And it's okay.
Yeah.
That works for you.
Right. We all have our own coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
and they're all different, and they change and they morph,
Yeah.
and they're not always good for us, but they are good in a way.
Yes, I think so. I think the transformational process, there's a lot in the world that says, even in the transformational, the healing world, that you've still got to be somehow perfect.
There's no such thing as perfect, right? There's just living.
Yeah.
That's perfection. Is actually living, being in the now.
Being in the now. But taking it from that place of, as we come into that, the full idea of moving from disempowerment, that is not living. Disempowerment and victimhood is not living. It's basically giving your life away,
Yes.
that power force, isn't it?
Yes. It's
So,
stagnant.
yeah.
It's controlling.
Yeah. It's energy that's not moving anywhere. It's like a
Mhm.
stuck pull, and you're waiting. And then you feel like you're waiting as well. That's all those thoughts, isn't it, that come up. You feel like you're waiting. You feel like you can't move forward. You feel like you're behind a glass. I always remember the feeling of being behind a glass window, that mirror
Yeah.
feeling. I can't get out. And that is all part of it, because it's telling you the energy is just not moving anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And on a spiritual level, I know many people can fall down when they have a spiritual alignment of wanting to just keep asking spirit, but it's not a spiritual thing. You can have a time of spiritual connection, but it's still got to move through your body. You're here as a human, aren't you? You're here as
Yeah.
a life experience that has to move through you being active and moving. So if I was your client, I'd love you to, just for a moment, show off maybe a bit of yours so people can really see what you do in your methods.
Sure. I'm definitely open to that. So when a client comes to me, I always like to take them through a short little grounding.
Okay.
Would you be open to that?
Always.
All right.
Always. Yeah.
So let's just connect into our body.
Okay.
So just close your eyes for a moment and feel your breath in your body. Feel the inhale and the exhale. And when the inhale comes in, feel it filling all the way down into your belly and your pelvis. And when it exhales, feel it contracting and releasing out of your body. Feel that gentle movement connecting with every cell. Feeling your shoulders relax and your facial muscles and your neck and your jaw. And then connecting in with your heart space. Knowing that you are safe and loved. And seeing what your heart space has to tell you today. What it is you need. And then when you're ready, take another deep breath and open your eyes.
I hope when everyone's listening to this, they do it for themselves, because it's really beautiful just to take that moment.
So what came up for you?
Well, I could breathe into my belly. I could ground. Yeah, I could ground into my root and my belly, and that felt. And then when it came to my heart, there was a gate across my heart. Yeah, I felt like my heart, there was a protection, and that was good to notice, and I was like, and I'm okay with that. The interesting thing is this feeling of wanting to keep her as mine. That's what's very at the forefront. I think that's that gate of going, oh, but she's mine. She's mine. Not shutting out the world, more like, oh, but I want to keep her in here. I would say that's kind of where I'm at. And that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing to feel,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That connection
Yeah.
is yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that connection's yours. And it's okay to feel it. And if it feels like it's caged, then let it be caged.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're ready to open the cage, that's
Mm.
completely in your hands, nobody else's. Being aware of it is huge.
It is huge. And the permission of it. just to share with the listeners, if you're not watching, I'm trying not to cry at this moment, but
And knowing that that's okay, that you can cry if you want.
yeah, and it is okay. It is okay. Maybe not sobbing on my podcast, but it's okay. But
Okay.
but that permission giving, I think that's really important for people. Maybe if they haven't reached out to somebody like yourself before, that it isn't about ripping you apart. I think there's a great
No.
fear if you're new to the journey, or maybe you've woken up enough to go, I don't want to stay in victim. I don't want to stay in this place. I want to move into my empowerment. I want to gain my power back. What power means. A lot of people think it's about power. We're not talking about that. We're talking about claiming yourself back to yourself. All of that emotional, mind, body, energy, spiritual, everything.
Yeah.
Just you back to you. That I think you've demonstrated really lovely there. It's soft. It doesn't have to be a painful thing, but it can be incredibly powerful. Healing and loving and compassion. And even if you don't know that, and I think for a lot of people, that's also the thing, they don't know what that looks like. Compassion.
Yeah. That it's not about digging. It's not about telling you, open the gate. What's behind the gate. That's not my business.
No.
Right? No. I am a facilitator for you to help you work through what it is you want to work through.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready for that, then that's your choice.
Yes.
You should never be pulled into something you're not ready for.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful thing for people to hear, because that's so true. There's so much of that. Let's get it sorted.
Let's sort what you want to sort.
Sort what you want to sort and take your time. But I think that's very much a very feminine approach. It's a very soft, feminine approach. And the security of, you can very feel that you're grounded. You've done the work to feel that safety with someone, to say, if you hadn't have gone through your journey, of course, I think you realize is that your journey, of course, has made you able to hold that space for people so that they feel safe with you. So as we, and I know we could continue and continue, but I think we've had such a beautiful rounding of this. We talked a lot about gratitude. So I'd love to know, what are the biggest things you are grateful for or appreciative of the journey that you've been through, the hardships that you've been through, that has brought you to where you are now, and the purpose that you're living in the way that you help others, as well as your joy of dancing and all of those things. But what are the biggest things that you are grateful and appreciative, the other side of the journey?
My resilience, finding that and understanding it's always been there from very young childhood and everything I dealt with, and really understanding that no matter what life throws at me, I can handle it.
Yeah.
Right? That resilience, super grateful for that. It's awareness, but it's also just the understanding of emotions. Really, really tapping into, like, when I'm ignoring my emotions, my body tells me, and listening to my body. And a lot of times I would not do that. I would just ignore it. Oh, you just have a headache. Oh, this just hurts because of that. But now I know when my body's signaling me, there's something I'm not processing or something I'm holding back that I need to work through.
Yeah.
And then I start thinking, okay, what happened in the last 24 hours? So that awareness is super important for me now. And I'm really grateful for it, because I wouldn't have had it if I didn't go through all of the muck.
Yeah.
And then, like, that also, the sense of my body, like really tuning into my body and being grounded. I know what to eat, when to move, all of those things. And I wasn't always there. I would just do whatever everybody else was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So gratitude for my body and how this amazing organism of cells on top of cells that multiply and do 50 million different jobs without me thinking one thought.
Yeah. I think that's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? That honoring, getting to that place when you can honor your body. I remember the reason I wrote my first book was because I always wanted a manual to life. And in that journey, since writing my first book and the outcome of all of that journey. But the thing is that we were all born with a manual. We just live in it. It's here. It's just we have to learn how to
Here.
read.
Here.
It's
It's
like
here.
you came with it, but do you know how to read the language of it? Do you actually listen to it? And as you say,
Mm,
this is a fucking miracle. A body is a miracle, and yet we beat it up for being like judging it in any way. And yeah, I think that is such an incredible thing, isn't it? When you have recognized that resilience and the listening to yourself and knowing that
mm,
body. And when I was saying goodbye to Faith, one of the things is actually so appreciative of her beautiful body, her fluffy, amazing body that gave her the chance to be here, and that was so healthy and so good. And that journey, of course, teaching myself, loving this body that's not perfect. It's different to what it was when I was younger and fitter and different. And I'm still fit now, but I'm not the same size. And I'm in 49, and it's different to what I was when I was a teenager and a 20-year-old and all of that. And yet more in love with my body than I've probably ever
mm.
been, and more grateful that I have this amazing body to
Yeah.
experience all those things that we've talked about: movement and taste, food, very, very important, the joy of food, and just all of it. Grateful to be alive, grateful to be alive. So it's been so beautiful. What would be your last words to the audience, to our lovely listener? What would you like to share with them as your last thoughts for today?
Oh, my last thoughts is to take the cue from both what Jo and I had to say. Listen to this vessel,
Yeah,
because she, he, it has so many lessons to teach you.
yeah, yeah,
You just have to listen.
absolutely. Absolutely. And allow that you have permission to do that. I think if they take anything from today, is that the world has changed. That idea of conditioning to survive, because that is a survival mechanism to not
Yeah.
listen. But you get to listen. It's your body. Nobody else is going to listen. Nobody else can hear it. Nobody else can hear what your soul wants, what your body wants. There's only you. So
Exactly. The doctors don't know what you're feeling. Your
they
spouse doesn't
don't.
know what you're feeling. It's you.
Yeah. And maybe perhaps from today, that if you have been struggling and maybe you wanted me to take that step, or maybe you've been always looking to traditional methods of hoping that the doctor could give you the answer or the painkiller or the pill to avoid,
Mm.
and you're deciding you want to do something else, as you've heard from Crystal's story, she's clearly experienced quite a lot of that, of recognizing then coming into how to shift from that disempowerment and into the empowerment of listening to your body. Where can they find you, Crystal, to get in contact or find out more about your work or some of your content and stuff so they can check you out?
So they can find me on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, under my own name, Crystal Robinson, and also under my company, which is Crystal Moon Holistic Healing.
It will all be in the show notes. Crystal, it's been an absolute delight to have you here. Thank you. It's been a lovely conversation. I very much enjoyed my grounding, so thank you for that. And yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for sharing and being our first ever showcase on Rich, Sexy and Free.
Thank you so much, Jo. It's an honor to be part of your podcast and to be your
Thank you.
first showcase. I
Yes, thank
really
you so much.
enjoyed speaking with you.
It's been great to connect with you today, but before you leave, if you haven't already, don't forget to come and be part of the community. And if you want to find out more about how I can help you personally, or check out any of my books, products, or coaching packages, just simply go ahead and visit richsexyandfree.com. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the podcast.